And I
Yes.
cannot tell you how many people simply don't start because they have this limiting thought in their mind that they have to do all the things right up front because they've done like a diet or a program in the past that was really restrictive and you had to follow this meal plan, you had to follow these rules. And we say all the time that is so counterproductive to long-term behavior change because that leads to overwhelm, which leads to kind of
Mhm.
it's just not an effective way to change your behavior. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Reshape Your Health podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Morgan Nolte, and today I'm so excited to introduce you to one of our Zivli members, Rebecca. She has been really active in office hours and she's made tremendous progress really during her time as a Zivli member and even before that. And I just thought I wanted to invite her on to share some of the wisdom and insight that she has gained. She's also a registered nurse, so she has a medical background. She understands the concepts that we talk about all the time about, lowering insulin and lowering inflammation. And the point of the conversation today is really just to inspire you. If you've been kind of like sitting on the sidelines and not, and learning that maybe not taking action for your health, or you haven't really figured out a system that works well for you, we hope that this gives you some inspiration and motivation to just start no matter where you're at. So, Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited for this.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So, tell us just a little bit about yourself, maybe like where you're from, what you do for a living, any hobbies, so that people can kind of get to know you a little better.
Okay. I live near Kalamazoo, Michigan. When I was younger, I was an avid exerciser. Think Jane Fonda. I
Yeah.
had all matching outfits. I was an aerobics instructor. I was constantly dieting. I was constantly hungry and counting my calories. Then I went to nursing school and so put on quite a bit of weight there. I still was struggling and managing, and then I went to nursing school again. And when I became an RN and went into the hospital, my life changed. I had put on some weight in college, and I was in a high stress environment in the intensive care unit. And there was a candy drawer. So I put on quite a bit of weight. I worked really hard to get it off. I lost all my weight. And then I ran a marathon. So, along with marathon training, your carb loading, spaghetti, oatmeal, I was eating a lot of foods, a lot of calories, and I was running it off. Then I found myself eating the calories and then chasing it, trying to run it off afterwards.
Yeah.
And it just got to be so exhausting. I'd slowed down on my running. Had some more career changes. Then I was a visiting nurse for a while, started going through some drive-throughs. Started with, the drive-throughs, picking up something here, picking up something there. Then in the office, we always had candy, cookies. Family members would send us donuts, which is very sweet and very kind and well-meaning. They want to do something nice for us. And it just the I just really got to eat. Anytime there was a donut or a cookie, it was really hard for me to say no. I went to work at a long-term care facility for a while, and the donuts and the cookies and the candy was even worse. When I would pack my lunch and I would go into the break room, and there were two um, machines, and the machines would actually make a noise every so many minutes, like it was going through some sort of like a setup, or it was a setting in the machine to make these noises to get your attention. I knew it.
Wow.
So, the constant environment of candy and donuts and cookies and machines everywhere So now at this point, I'm just eating all kinds. I'm in a lot of stress. I'm not drinking enough water. I went through menopause. Now I'm not sleeping. I talked to my doctor about it. She says she doesn't believe in hormones. So, which is well documented that when your estrogen goes down, your weight goes up.
Mhm.
Um, I went outside of the system and found another doctor who prescribed progesterone for me, which helped me sleep, and then he retired. So I kept struggling. I would go to the store and my friend and I, we call it the gauntlet. You know, you're going through constant candy and chips and everything that they can get you right through to the end. And now I've even noticed at the checkout when you're scanning, they got candy bars sitting right there now.
They sure do.
So they've moved it. And the same has happened in the fruit and vegetable. They say, shop the outside of the aisles, but now the first thing you come in, I mean, you practically see the caramel dipping sauce before you even see the apples. You know,
Mhm.
so, this is everywhere. And now, I just feel, I just really felt attacked. I just really felt that I was in an unfriendly environment. I was really angry, that I just couldn't get away from this stuff. I even put a rubber band around my wrist and would snap myself, when I was near the candy. It was ridiculous.
Mhm.
And it was such a struggle. And I was just so unhappy. And I'm thinking, what is going on? I put on a lot of weight at this point. I was way over 200 pounds and I'm only 5'1". And at this point, it was just uncontrollable for me. I didn't feel good. I didn't have my progesterone anymore. I wasn't sleeping. And I realized I was in this terrible, terrible state of inflammation. So I was hypertensive. I was snoring. My skin, didn't look as good. I was exhausted all the time, especially after eating. I just was exhausted. Um, I'm sure there's many more things I can't think of right now, but and then I've read so many books and YouTube after book after book. I'm like, why is this happening to me? So then that's what I did. I sat down and I wrote a list.
Okay.
What are my problems and why am I having these problems? So I'm identifying the why I'm having these problems. I know where I'm going. My dad died at 68. He was diabetic. He had amputations, heart attack, hypertension. He was on dialysis. And in the end, he had a stroke at 68. I see my patients coming in. They're younger and younger with these problems. And me, I'm having these problems. And it was embarrassing, you know. And I'm a smart person. Why can't I figure this out? You know. So I've, worked with many other professionals, with doctors who have had these problems, and other nurses, and we're all smart people, And so I really did a lot of digging and research, and I was just coming to find this insulin, this high insulin idea, and that's what led me to your program. So when I look at your program actually had everything in it that I was finding, everything. He has the sleep, the stress, the exercise, taking time for yourself. When you say yes to something, you might be saying no to you. Um, and it just really led me to a lot of soul searching. And there were some very difficult times when I started in the very beginning. There was so much.
Yeah.
My whole it was it's just there's so much. It's overwhelming.
Mhm.
So I had to list everything and I just took it one little thing at a time. And while I was learning, I was trying to change some of my behaviors. I found and fell upon um, the habits. So when you're trying to do behavior changes, these habits are pathways in our brains, and it's these ruts, and you start to get up, bam, you're back in it again. It's so hard to develop new habits. Looking back, I think, well, this is so easy. you know, I have my 2 water bottles I fill in the morning. So I read that book, Atomic Habits, and I took a lot of things out of that. A lot of your suggestions, I've read it all and listened to everybody. Um, the and you make it obvious, you make it easy. My water bottles are very easy.
Mhm.
Oh, what could be easier than that? I
Yep.
just fill them up in the morning. I take them to work with me, you
Yep.
know? So, and I pack my lunches. And now that I know what's going on in my body, and I'm paying attention, and I could feel it. I could feel, these cravings for sugar. And so instead of being mad at myself or everybody else, I just tried to step out and looked at it objectively. You know, I know that the store isn't trying to kill me. you know, my friends aren't trying to kill me.
Mhm.
The store's trying to make money.
Yep.
They're trying to sell things. My friends are trying to be kind to me. My patients' families are trying to be kind to me. Um, and sometimes you do things for your kids, and you get them some ice cream. You're not meaning to be unkind. And so I just really, when I put away my anger, and I just had to put it all away because I was just tired. I
Mhm.
was tired.
Yeah, you were tired from the chronic inflammation and then the chronic kind of negative thinking. We know that
Negative
those
thinking.
drive
Yes.
inflammation. Yeah. I want to go back to the overwhelm early on. Was that because I mean, I'm not shy to say our program is very in depth and very robust, and that the second edition coming out in January is even more so. But was it more so like, wow, I have all of these areas of my life that I need to optimize? Is that where the overwhelm came from versus information overload, or was it a combination?
Well, it was everything. Well, not only that, it was also the awakening of what was really going on.
Gotcha.
And then when you find out that you have to completely organize your whole life, you know, I mean, your program is very, very helpful. And there's a lot of information, but you can only just really do one thing at a time. And so um, I started one thing at a time. First I concentrated on sleep and water. You know, Day after day, I would get it wrong. Day after day, I'd keep trying. I'd fail and fail and fail. I had times where I cried. I had times where I had to avoid going to the grocery store.
Mhm.
Avoid. I had to change my route driving home, so I wasn't driving past the fast food restaurant.
Mhm.
If I took the visual out of the way, then it was easier for me. So now I can drive down the road and drive past the restaurants. But in the beginning, I had to change that. So yeah, it's been many, many, many months. And now I don't know, maybe 7 months in. Now I've got it dialed in. I don't have to have everything just right. I don't so I might plan something and it might not turn out, but it's okay. There's another day.
Mhm.
I fill my water bottles. I take them to work every day. Okay, maybe a day I couldn't find one, or I don't know, something. So that day, maybe I need to go down and buy a bottle of water from the cafeteria, which I try to stay away from the cafeteria.
Yeah, because you packed lunch.
So,
Well, I
yeah.
think another important point I didn't want to skip over was you said one thing at a time. And I
Yes.
cannot tell you how many people simply don't start because they have this limiting thought in their mind that they have to do all the things right up front because they've done like a diet or a program in the past that was really restrictive and you had to follow this meal plan, you had to follow these rules. And we say all the time that is so counterproductive to long-term behavior change because that leads to overwhelm, which leads to kind of
Mhm.
it's just not an effective way to change your behavior. So slow and steady. I'm so happy to hear you say that. I wanted to backtrack just a little bit and talk about the sugar cravings and you mentioned in an email like that sugar addiction. And I was just doing research this week for the new End Your Carbon Sugar Cravings Masterclass. And sugar is an addictive substance. I mean, there is strong research behind that.
Yes.
Sugar addiction isn't the word that the medical community uses anymore. They use the substance use disorder, and it has
Mhm.
to meet. There's 11 criteria for a substance to be considered addictive, or more specifically, for someone to say, "I have a substance use disorder." And I don't have all 11 off the top of my head, but some of the major ones that really resonate with me in sugar and my history in sugar, which I'm guessing you can relate with, are cravings, um,
Mhm.
eating it even though it's to the detriment of our health,
Yep.
multiple repeated attempts to quit or reduce a substance,
Yep.
withdrawal from a substance,
Yes.
and so it's like, even if you just meet 2, so 2 to 3 is like a mild substance use disorder, and then I think it was, 4 to 5 is a moderate, and then anything over 6 of the criteria, is a more advanced substance use disorder, and I think we need to normalize talking about sugar as a potentially addictive substance. Not everyone will have this issue, but darn it, with how it lights up the dopamine receptors in the brain,
Mhm.
that hedonic principle of it, it makes you want more and more. And so I wanted you to speak into that a little bit. And what were some of the major things that you implemented that helped reduce those cravings for you?
Well, I had to say, when you have a problem when you're bargaining and trying to reason and trying to make excuses
Mm-hmm.
and to have exceptions. And when you're defending something so strongly, then that's got a grip on you. And first, it's just realizing it. And then of course, I had to get rid of everything in the house. Um, I felt like in the past, like when I tried Weight Watchers, they'd have those little treats, or in the past, I would do Werther's,
Right. Yep.
smaller. I would do little things, and I've heard lots of people defend that, but for me, it was just keeping it going, and I just had to stop. I just had to stop everything, and then I found some alternatives, like keto cake mix. So
Yep.
I make cupcakes. There are some sugar-free ice creams, and I let myself have a couple days a week.
Mm-hmm.
On the weekend, when I have time to enjoy it, if I'm working, I might skip the weekend or maybe do it on Monday. I try not to lock myself in because that perfectionist mindset will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
I just a couple days a week, I can have something. Um, thank goodness I enjoy nuts. So, but yes, now I have my keto. I prefer things that aren't in packages anymore. I mean, I had
Yeah.
some little packaged things, but I prefer nuts or a sugar-free ice cream, and I let myself have those indulgences a couple of times a week, and that helps me. And they're always low sugar,
Mm-hmm.
or no sugar. So knowing that I can have something on Wednesday, someone comes in, oh, here's some cookies. And then, oh, I can have my thing on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I have something at home I can have. And now, with your program and thinking about insulin, a question I ask myself is, how is this going to affect my insulin? So
Yeah. That's exactly
I
right. That's
know,
a litmus test.
what it's going to do to me. And, there's a period of grief,
Mm.
a loss. and sadness. There's sadness and there's a lot of anxiety. I'm still anxious about it. I've been months without sugar now at this point. I'm still afraid that I'm gonna fall back in. I think maybe someday I'll get over that. Um, but I'm afraid of going back to where I was, and that my life is so much better now. I really feel at this point that the likelihood of that happening is very unlikely.
Mhm.
And
And you know how in Atomic Habits, he says every decision you make is like a vote for or against the person that you want to become.
yes.
And so I think that those ruts in your brain of like that sugar addiction mindset
Mhm,
were really deep. But the longer you're out of that, the more like the deeper the new habits get, the new neural
mhm,
pathways get. So I do think that you're going to get to the point where you're going to be fully confident, like, nope, I'm not going back there yet. But yeah, it does take, like you said,
mhm,
you've been at this for 7 months and it really does take time for the brain to adapt and develop that neuroplasticity of new pathways and new
mhm,
habits. And I think you've done such a beautiful job so far with that. Um, I think you have an interesting I want to talk a little bit more about your why. And before we get there, I think it's interesting to talk about like what was the incident that happened because people might be listening who I think can relate to this. And I like to say, when God or the universe is trying to teach us something, they're going to start with a pebble. And if we don't pay attention, then we're going to get a rock. And if we don't pay attention still, we're going to get a boulder. And like you kind of got a
yes.
boulder.
I
So
got
can
a
you tell us
boulder.
about this incident that kind of was that made you say enough is enough here? I'm going to change my
Yeah,
lifestyle.
yeah. Well, my big why is health. I want to be healthy. I want to explore and travel, and I like hiking.
Mhm.
And when I retire, I do not want to be unable to do those things. It's important for me to be active, and so that's my why. I want to be healthy. It's a big why for me.
Yeah.
And then the thing that happened, um, so okay, so I was in this period of my life. It was probably about in March or maybe April. And it was before I had started this. So I don't know how many months it's been because it seems like it's been about 7 months. But anyway, I was trying to not eat the candy at work and driving a different way home and doing these things to s- put myself towards what I wanted to do. And I had gone shopping, and generally I stay away from things in processed foods. Processed foods of I like processed foods, and I ate a lot of them. But sometimes it just made me not feel good. And it wasn't nauseous, or it just made me not feel good in general to eat processed foods. But I saw this jar of cheese sauce, and I thought, oh, I haven't had that in a long time. I'll just get some of this. So I bought some. I made myself this lovely taco salad, lots of lettuce and vegetables, and I put some taco meat on there, and then I got these corn chips. So I'm eating these corn chips and dipping it in this cheese sauce, and I'm watching television. I'm not paying any attention, and before you know it, I had eaten a good portion of the cheese sauce. Anyway, it was really good. And so I told myself, my husband walked through the living room and he gave me this look. It's like looking at me like, because I don't usually eat that.
Yeah.
But he didn't say anything. But I just knew what he was thinking in his head. Why are you eating that? So
Mhm.
then a couple hours go by, and boy, that was really darn good. So I just had a little bit more. At
Mhm.
this point, this 16-ounce jar was probably almost half, close to half gone at this point. So anyway, and I just really was not feeling that great. I didn't really feel sick. I just didn't feel well. And so I go to bed. I wake up in the morning, hop in the shower. I'm going to go to work. And I was nauseated. I did not feel good that morning. I did not eat breakfast. I I had volunteered to work that day, and I'm a nurse. Here I am in the hospital. I'm just feeling nauseated, and I'm like, "What is going on?" And so sure enough, I ran to the bathroom, and I was so sick. I had broken blood vessels all over my
Oh,
so sick. I had to go home, and I had this terrible pain in my stomach, this epigastric pain, and I kept burping and burping, and I just was so sick I couldn't eat all day. Next day I went into work, I just wasn't feeling well. I had this lump, um, and I'm like, what is going on? I kept burping and burping. So I'm looking up symptoms and trying to figure it out. And like, oh dang, I have a hiatal hernia. I gave myself a hiatal hernia. I can't.
oh no.
I made myself a little bit of potatoes. I ate a little bit of banana. I just couldn't eat.
No.
Make an appointment with the doctor, who also sends me to the GI specialist, and they order me like Nexium for acid reflux. I'm like, I don't have reflux. My stomach is in my esophagus.
Yeah.
I can't eat anything. I'm in terrible pain, you know. So yeah, so that's what happened, and I wasn't. I didn't want to take any medicine. A lot of medicine is covering up symptoms,
Yeah.
not addressing the problem. So I came home and I jumped up and down a lot and looked at some videos. I pressed. There's some decompression you can do, pressing in the area. I also have a vibration plate I got on, and after 2 days, my hiatal hernia was gone.
So it kind of went back into place, which is
It went
really
back
good.
into place, and I was miserable, and that was a wake up call for me. I wasn't going to do it anymore. Um, I had starting doing more research, on my what my main problems were, but at that point, I hadn't gone the insulin route, so
I hadn't got there. I think that's really important for anyone who has a desire to change is to keep your eye on your why. I really like that statement. And like your why is your health. But I think part of that too is what are we trying to avoid? And
Mhm.
you're a nurse. You mentioned that your dad had severe diabetes and cardiovascular disease. I've seen people with amputations. I've seen people who had strokes and could never talk or communicate with their loved ones again or go up and down the stairs. And it's like when you keep your eye on your why, that means keeping an eye on where you want to go, but also an eye, not a fearful eye, but just an awareness of, wow, I don't want to go back there again. And I think that can be really motivating.
It's very motivating for me.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
feeling a lot better now. I really worry about people, and it breaks my heart that this education just is not mainstream yet. Years ago, I heard about, Atkins and, all these different things. And I just thought, everybody is a bunch of quacks and, you know, what do you mean oatmeal's not good for you? What do you mean? I mean, before I was a nurse, even while I was a nurse, I'd even buy orange juice.
Oh,
And
yeah. You
orange
know
juice
what?
is
On the
terrible.
high V, like on the automated blood pressure cuff and the Plattsmouth high V, they talk about like weight loss and eat the rainbow. And they encourage you to have 6 ounces of orange juice a day to get your
It's
orange. I'm like,
terrible.
ridiculous. And I'll still see like hospital discharge paperwork after someone has a heart attack that encourages them to eat more canola oil because it's a
Yes.
polyunsaturated fat. And I'm like, how is there such a big gap in the evidence and the implementation, the evidence and the advice? There's such a big gap still. And I've seen research, I don't know, like 18 to 20 years between the time the evidence comes out and the time the doctor is talking about it. And so that's why I love the internet is like you can learn something and share it right away. And the people that want to learn can learn, and they don't have to have that gap time. um, so I loved hearing about the why and kind of just that spark. And I hope that people listening recognize their own wake up calls, or even better, recognize the little pebbles or the little rocks before they get that kind of wake up call. Because I mean, the longer you put off a problem, the bigger the problem gets. Like the heavier the boulder is to move, and I'm such a big advocate because every dollar, minute, and ounce of energy that is invested into your health now will have a greater return on your investment when you're retired. And not only that, but it's not like you're putting money into a 401k that you can't take out until you're retired, but like you get to reap the benefits now. So
Yes.
can you talk a little bit about kind of where you started and then like what are some of the benefits that you're reaping now? Like what's some of the progress that you've seen?
Well, around the cheese incident, which made me reevaluate everything again. So I'm looking at my waist circumference. Now I'm looking at my blood pressure. I'm looking at my fasting blood sugars. And I realize I have metabolic syndrome. I have hypertension. I'm pre diabetic. The doctor didn't diagnose me with these things. I just know from reading that I have these things. And I could go into the doctor and they would agree with me. So I just didn't. I just really started working on it. And actually, at this point, I am. I also had to revisit some old labs from 4 or 5 years ago, and then I had them redone last year. That I had elevated liver enzymes,
Right. Yeah.
and my family doctor, who didn't believe in hormone replacement, just said, "Oh, we'll just keep an eye on that." And even being a nurse, which is embarrassing to say, I just thought it was from a virus because I had been in, I was sick. I figured, well, I had a virus. My liver enzymes are just elevated from this virus. And then I just had to go back and revisit some things and learned that I have fatty liver disease. And I also learned that the normal ranges for ALT, AST, alkaline phosphatase, and GGT, the normal values have been moved up.
They have been. Yep.
So, so many people have fatty liver disease now that it's now going to be the number one cause of liver transplants in America,
Mm-hmm.
to be alcoholism. And it's much like alcoholism. The sugar is very damaging to your liver, and in particular, fructose.
Yep.
And so I'm now paying more attention to that. So my blood pressure has steadily come down. I'm now mostly in the one teens. The other day I checked it at work, I was 100/59.
Nice.
Yeah. My blood sugars are mostly under 100. Every now and then they're 100. But I still have a ways to go. My liver enzymes are a lot better. I had an appointment with a gastroenterologist who is going to be letting me have some tests every 3 months to check on my progress. There's a point when you have liver disease that it's not reversible. And a lot of people don't know that. When you have fatty liver disease, you can get rid of your fat and then you can be fine. But for some people who have a fatty liver, it affects their enzymes, and I'm one of those people. So that means you're having some liver damage. And a lot of times that damage can be reversed. But if you have the fat in your liver for long enough, you're going to have scarring.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have the scarring, that is not reversible. I have researched this, studied this. I didn't want to believe it. I've done a lot of bargaining. I don't know where I'm at. A lot of people do not know this.
Mm-hmm.
And they can even look at their liver enzymes from their doctor, and it could just be a little bit higher, in the 35. I can't remember the exact numbers, AST, ALT, 35, 40. Oh, that's not too bad. But we've raised the bar on these enzymes, and it is not good.
Yep. I think there's a story I wanted to share that's relatable to that. And the fact that your doctor said, "Oh, it's not a big deal."
Mhm.
I was speaking to a good friend recently and she went into her doctor and she said, "I am concerned about my weight." And she's maybe slightly overweight, And the doctor said, well, I'm not.
Mhm.
I like when my women have a little extra weight on them in case they get sick. Completely dismissed her concern, did not address it at all. But then she said, Morgan, it gave me a false sense of security that I didn't need to do anything. And it made me not listen to myself. And I think the modern term for that is gaslighting, like where a doctor
Yeah.
doesn't pay attention to your concern, and then they make you start to question your own beliefs about your body. And so I think that that's just important for anyone who's listening. If you feel concerned about something and your doctor isn't, just like Rebecca did, go get a second opinion. You can tell she's done so much independent research into these topics, into her health. And I'm so proud of you, first of all, for taking action. And I think it's really unique. The situation that you're in, you're a nurse. We're still in COVID. Are you guys still having to be fully masked and all that stuff?
Yeah, we're still wearing masks. I'm okay to wear a mask at work.
Okay. But I think you didn't use the stress of work as an excuse to not take action to improve your health. You kind of said enough is enough and I have
The
to take action.
the stress at work made it so much worse. And it's another one of the things that you find out through your program that you teach so well is about how cortisol goes up, and then cortisol makes your insulin go up. Now your insulin's up, you're in a fight or flight, and you have to do something, but there's nothing you can do. And so you eat a candy bar,
I know. The
right?
problem gets even worse.
There
Yeah.
you go.
And we've talked about the program a little bit, but I love when people take what I teach and make it their own. And I feel like you've done that, but we haven't talked about that yet. And you talk about your pillars. And I would love for you to explain a little bit more. What are your pillars of health, and what is the system that you've really worked to implement to change your lifestyle?
Well, in the atomic habits and in your information and material also, when you want to do something, you want to make it easy, you want to make it obvious. I can't remember all of them. Yeah, you want to make it rewarding.
Yes.
Oh,
Easy,
my
satisfying. What is that? I just
satisfying.
talked about this. Easy,
Yeah,
yes,
I
uh,
have it written in my book
attractive.
somewhere.
It's
Attractive.
attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, my pillars are water, sleep, exercise, healthy diet, and stress management.
Nice. Good. Good.
And for my stress management, I take more time for myself now. I don't, I mean, for some people, they need to schedule it. I get some days off during the week to myself where I like to go walking in the woods and I like music. I do a lot of art, but I haven't been recently. I like to make things out of stained glass.
Nice.
I have healthy outlets. So, and also I've been practicing more of the mindfulness. I even have an alarm on my watch, but usually goes off at a bad time. Be mindful. I'm too busy.
I know. But
Maybe
there's
I'll
a
do
lot
that.
that
I'll do
counts,
it
right?
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so those are my pillars. So I made it easy. I have my 2 water bottles. I take my little cup to bed every night, my little 10 ounce. In the morning, I finish it. Then I have another cup. There's 20 ounces out of the way. I fill my 2 water bottles and I just take that with me to work or I have them on the counter. I have my easy meals, very easy. I had to figure out when am I going to eat,
Yeah.
rewriting my whole story. So, okay, when I'm home, I'm going to make eggs. And when I'm at work, I'm going to do a shake.
Mm-hmm.
I do very healthy shakes with low glycemic berries. I'll throw in some spinach, some chia, some flax. I grind my flax seeds and put my chia in whole.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, I can't get the stuff out of the flax seeds if they're not ground. And then you want to keep your chia whole. Anyway, I've been reading about all this stuff.
Yeah.
Made it easy. And I
Mhm.
set things up the night before. If I'm not working the night before, it's all ready to go. So I get up in the morning, drink my water. I exercise every morning. If I'm home, I do my eggs. I've got 4 or 5 different egg things I can do to keep it.
Nice. Yeah.
I've got a couple different shake things I can do to keep it interesting. And then I just have my dinner. So my dinner, I do my lunch the day before. It always starts with protein. I usually have to eat, and I start all my meals with protein. I eat 2 times a day. I get a minimum of 50 grams of protein.
Nice. I like that.
I was getting too full. I use gelatin in my coffee. So I get 11 grams of protein just in my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I just start with the protein. I put in the fat. This is more of a high protein, moderate fat.
Yep.
I am. And I am never hungry. My cravings are gone.
Yeah.
Um, I take some melatonin, and every now and then I'll take a little half of an over the counter sleep medication, the lowest dose I can, but I'm sleeping. I found I was going to get on um, hormones, and I went to the doctor about it, and I have a prescription, but I thought first I would try some bioidentical cream that's over the counter.
Mm-hmm.
So I just tried that. I know that I'm low on everything because a couple of years ago I had my labs drawn, and I there's two vitamins I take for my hormones, DHEA and pregnenolone. They both
Mm-hmm.
progesterone and estrogen. And then I do the cream, estrogen cream and progesterone cream at night before I go to bed. So now I have habits that I didn't used to have before.
Yep.
I used to come home from work and sit on the couch and eat. Now I take my melatonin and I might drink a calming tea and I relax on my drive home. And then when I come home, I go straight into my bedroom, into the bathroom, and I take care of myself and
Yeah.
I sleep.
Yeah.
So I am hitting all my pillars consistently.
Yeah. And I just love how you use that language around it. I wanted to ask your husband's, if you don't mind, how has he been throughout this process? Because it sounds like a lot has had to change. So was that a struggle? Is he on board? Is he like, how is that looking?
Well, my poor husband, he has been with me through thick and thin when I was thin and when I was thick.
Yeah.
Marathon. He's always been supportive.
Yeah.
And, he knew I was trying something again. And he said something. It was not negative, but he worries about my health and he wants me to be happy. I know
Mhm.
I'm loved. And so I just told him, well, I just really feel like if I were if I'm on my deathbed, what are the things in my life I'm going to regret? And the biggest thing I'm going to regret is that I've never been able to keep my weight off and live just a calm life without having this constant struggle. And he doesn't want to see me hurt. And he did say something about, I can't remember what he said, but I just said, well, think about if I were smoking cigarettes, would you tell me to not try to quit smoking? What if I'm drinking, or what if I have a problem with drugs? Would you tell me to not try to stop doing that? I have a problem, and I don't feel that I can stop trying.
Yeah.
And that's what I told. And he's supportive. Every now and then, though, he might say, like, "Are you supposed to be eating that?" And yeah, I am. It might be my day that I get to have my keto cupcake.
Yeah.
So, and I just really feel it's important to let ourselves have a little leeway every now and then. And
Me too.
my leeway is just something that doesn't have sugar in
Right. And I think that's so important for people listening. They get this idea that there's like one right way to do it, and there's not. There's truly
it.
not. Like there's
Mhm,
your way, whatever works for you is the right way. But I think
mhm.
that's going to take some experimenting, and it's going to take trial and error, and it's going to take time to figure out.
Yeah, for me, it was a lot of experimenting, a lot of failure, a lot of, I messed up. What can I do differently tomorrow? Maybe I need to move this here. Maybe I need to organize my bathroom differently. Maybe I need to, there's a lot of organization and changing, make it easy, make it
Mhm.
doable,
Obvious. Yeah.
obvious. Yeah. Um, Things like that.
I
Yeah.
think that's important that people recognize, like, okay, well, okay, so she's a success story. Like, it didn't happen overnight and you failed your way there. And like, I think that I would attest to, I love the quote, like, you fail your way to success.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
what happens
Love. Well, you told me one time when I was in tears that
early on.
you can have a plan, you know, but say you don't you don't rise to the
Mhm.
to your plan. You fall to the level of your processes
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something. How does that
Yeah.
go?
So that comes from James Clear, Atomic Habits. And he says, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And you
Yes.
embrace that so
So
much.
I had to have my systems locked in. And I might have a week where I weigh myself every week. Sometimes I weigh myself a couple more times, but mainly once a week. I might have a goal. I'm going to lose 2 pounds this week. Then I don't lose. It's just not a good goal.
Yeah.
My goal is to lose weight and to get healthier. But, sometimes your body has a different plan. And sometimes your body might not feel it's safe this week to lose another pound. Maybe we need to wait a week or two. And then if it's okay, then I'll give up another pound. And yeah, now I'm at 50 pounds.
Oh my goodness. That's more
Um,
than a whole plate at the gym. Congratulations.
I'm down 50 pounds. I'm running not regularly. I'm like interval running because I want to get back to running, but I don't want to have an injury. And I thought that my legs were strong, and I found that my legs were very weak.
Mhm.
Hips. So I was
Yeah.
runner's knee, and I had to strengthen my hips. And so I'm going slowly, and I'm getting healthier every day.
I love that. I wanted to ask where you see yourself going because we were talking offline. We're going to post a couple, I said before and after pictures, and you were very quick to say, "Oh, it's not after yet." And I said, "You're absolutely
No,
right. This is just before and now." So where do you see yourself progressing from here?
well, I want to be realistic and honest and objective. And so I have like a number in mind, but I don't know so I decided what I'll do is when I get down to maybe about 130 pounds or so, I want to get a DEXA scan.
Okay, yeah.
What is my how much fat, how much bone, how much muscle, to get a real good realistic understanding of where I'm at, and also my labs and how I feel. And then I'll make a decision at that point when I'm at 130 pounds, which is um, it's still a little ways away.
Yeah.
So
But you're on
anyway,
your way. You're on your way. So,
yeah,
getting a scale to more fully assess body composition, that's on
yes.
the horizon. What else is on the horizon for you?
Well, my goal next year is I want to be able to run for an hour. Just like that marathon. I mean, nobody needs to run for 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
So that was a little extreme. I tend to be a little extreme sometimes. So when it comes to exercising, I really do love exercising once I get around to it.
Mhm.
Why did I fall off the wagon? I was not exercising. So my goal is next year I want to do this run. It's the Firecracker, and it's a 5K run. It's something I used to run all the time. I call it the block. It's
Mhm.
5 miles. So my
A
goal,
5-mile run? Okay.
yeah, and my goal is to run around the block 5 miles next year and
You
do it
can do it.
comfortably and easily.
Yeah. You can do it, and I know something that has helped me, if you probably already have studied heart rate zones. Have you studied those?
Yeah, yeah, I have, and it's really hard for me to get my heart rate. I am going to the gym. I also have a treadmill here at home that my husband found for me and set up for me because he's
Oh.
supportive and wonderful. But I actually have to put on a weight vest and put my treadmill, like if I'm walking on the treadmill, I have to work really hard to get my heart rate up to 100.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, geez. I just got back into running. I think I've shared this in office hours, and I was trying to run like I was 18 and go with that pace. And I was so
Hmm.
frustrated that I couldn't sustain like 3 miles is like my happy place. And I finally just slowed down and studied my heart rate zone to stay in like that target heart rate zone that you can. So it was zone 3 for me. And in the new exercise lesson in the January course, you'll learn how to do that and like how to calculate yours. So when you really pick up the training again, I'd encourage you to like figure it out. And then when you're running, check your heart rate every now and then and like see where you're at. Cause that was helpful for me.
When I was doing my interval running, I can get my heart rate up to about 140, and I like that. That's
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah. Mine is 150. So that sounds
Mhm.
pretty good for a 140. But
Mhm.
um, I just wanted to again acknowledge you just for, your work as a nurse. First of all, I should have done that up front for, especially during COVID. You're one of the frontline workers, and that's very admirable. And then just setting an example for your coworkers and your spouse, and like most importantly, just for you, so that you don't get to your deathbed and you're like, I wish I would have figured this out. And I know that you're not done yet. This is a never ending process. But I think just taking a moment to acknowledge how far you've come is a pretty darn big deal. So thank you for sharing your story today, Rebecca. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on or share?
Um, no, just I would like everybody to know that the diabetes rates in America is very high. It's just getting higher and higher, and our children are getting affected. And I'm just really worried. I just wish everybody could be healthy and feel what it's like, and know that there's life, there's a way of living that is satisfying. And I'm very satisfied right now.
Hmm.
I don't, my cravings are gone. I never would have thought that I could lose weight and not have cravings.
Hmm. That's huge. Thank you for sharing that. And I second that. There's a study that came out a few years ago. 88% of adults have some degree of metabolic dysfunction, i.e., insulin resistance. Most people have no idea. There's a lot of people with pre-diabetes out there, and their doctor's like, "Oh, you don't have to do anything yet."
Hmm.
There was a member in office hours, remember, and what wasn't it? Was it you or was it a different one? I thought it was you.
Oh, I was talking about checking my blood sugar.
Exactly. Yeah. Tell that story to wrap it up.
Yeah,
That's
there was a doctor at work,
yeah.
and was saying something about checking my blood sugar, and that I wasn't diabetic, but I keep checking my blood sugar and what my blood sugar was that morning. And he says, "Well, if you're not diabetic, why are you checking your blood sugar?" And I said, "Well, because I don't want to be diabetic."
Yeah. What did he say to that? We didn't get around to
He didn't say anything,
it's obvious, I
but
guess.
they're so used to treating things after they happen.
Mhm.
And
It's
it's
not what we're about. Yeah, we want to prevent it in the
yeah.
first place. So kudos to you. You just made awesome progress. And I know you're a big inspiration for our Zivli members and hopefully now even to the broader podcast and YouTube community. And really appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you, Morgan.
Yeah, my pleasure.